everyone. Welcome to the podcast Straight Talks on Supply Chain. I am your host, Sudeshna Dikshit, and today I'm excited to be joined in by my colleague Nivesh and Robin for a discussion on warehouse automation and urban logistics and its impact on the global supply chain. Nivesh is an infrastructure professional with over 15 years of management consulting experience across various infrastructure subsectors, with a primary focus on ports, maritime, logistics, shipping, and supply chain. He is also the co-founder of ASCELA Management Services. Our second guest today is Robin Vermat. He is a self-made entrepreneur and is the founder of RV Consultancy. He has almost 2 decades of experience in the logistic and supply chain industry, and he has been in the region for more than a decade now. A warm welcome to you both. Now, before we delve down into some serious business, gentlemen, it's good to know what exactly would have been a life outside supply chain. If I may ask you, Robin, what it would be, if not supply chain?
Thank you very much for having, first of all. I would say probably something in the sense of fashion. Not so sure what it will be, but probably fashion. Maybe sales in some store or whatsoever. How I came later on into the logistics and the supply chain just by coincidence to work for that, and actually that sticked for where we are now. So yeah, but if it was not the case, I would then think I would did something in fashion.
That's interesting. Quite a striking difference.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you for sharing this. Nivesh, for you, I see that you have been all throughout in the consulting business, like in the advisory world, and especially focusing on ports and maritime, though. So what is your other passion? Like what would have been for you if it was not that?
Thanks, Sudeshna, and thanks for having me here, first of all. Now, if you ask me now, I can't think of anything else. But yeah, given a choice, or probably few years back, I could have been a photographer. So photography is something which deeply come from within. So I had a deep passion, still have, I still do. So I still can follow my passion. So if this doesn't work, that is the alternative or backup for me.
That's really interesting. In fact, what I was just thinking, that fashion, photography, we have a business outside supply
Exactly,
chain.
right?
That's a wonderful combination. Great to know it. Great to it. And if you ask me, I don't know. It's been like for me 2 decades as well. So the journey started when I started my journey with DHL, and it's a very nascent stage. For me also, supply chain accidentally happened. I never thought that it would be. I was majorly into client interactions in different segments, but it's been like 2 decades now, and I'm completely in love with the dynamism in the industry, and probably that's how make us be together here. Interesting.
I agree. Yeah.
Now, coming back to some serious business, over to you, Nivesh. Now, how you started with logistics and warehousing, and what has been the journey so far for you?
So journey has been very, I would say, different, because I started my career as an architect. I'm an architect by background, by profession, by education. I did gravitate towards my infrastructure planning. I started working as a transportation planner. I worked as an infrastructure planner, then gravitated towards supply chain. And once I get into supply chain, when you are deeply into something, then it's a different world for you.
True.
And then once you are into something, it's not very easy to come out also.
Correct.
But yes, nonetheless, it has been a very interesting journey so far. And yeah, in all this period of, like, I would say, a decade and a half and more, a lot of things which has come across ups and downs we have seen in the industry. Industry, of course, as you know, is very dynamic in nature. So journey has been very interesting and very, very intriguing. So I'm looking forward. Yeah.
Great. How about you, Robin? How the journey has been so far from
Where we are now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, for me it is different, because I came into the consultancy business now going into the 3rd year. Prior to that, I worked for an employer, but hence to the COVID situation, I got made redundant, which propelled, to say, my situation into where we are now. and I always had the thought back in my mind. So if nothing comes up or nothing is suiting, I will start something for myself. Hence, the RV consultancy was born, where we provide logistics solutions to the companies that are in need on a commercial level. But yeah, no, I see that it is going the right way, and the market segment is also now evolving more into a consultancy style rather than having an employment style. So for us, it is a good situation. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it has been a win-win situation for you.
Yes.
With your passion, now you are able to deliver it without any restriction, I must say.
Yeah.
Fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic initiative. Uh, Nivesh, with your 15 years of experience in providing solutions and designing solutions in the market, uh, if you are asked to pick up certain main driving points that has been instrumental in transforming the industry, supply chain industry, if I may put it that way, what would that be?
So I would say that driving force behind supply chain. So there are many, in fact, but if I have to pinpoint on few, the industry has come from mechanization to automation. This is a big moment. When we were talking about industry 2.0, the focus was more into duplication or the process development. But then it was more about duplicating or kind of converting something from a prototype. That was also an improvement. That was a big step that we had taken that time point in time. But now when we are living in this era, it's more about digitization. It's more about technology. And now when we say technology, it's not about the IT. It's also about IoT, robotics. Things have changed. Things are still evolving. It's not that we have reached to where we have. It's not the pinnacle yet, but there are a lot of things which are changing, which is driving the industry. The other thing which I would also say, because as we all know, and I'm sure you both will also agree, the industry is very cyclic. So one thing will also has an effect, ripple effect on the entire supply chain. We'll talk about it more, but yes. So the dynamic nature of the industry itself helps the industry a lot in terms of being resilient, being evolving, ever evolving, and that itself is driving enough the industry.
Absolutely, I agree with you. With the dynamism that is existing in the industry, it is very difficult to point out anything specific in silos because overall it's an ever-changing dynamics that we are working in. Absolutely. Now, if that reminds me, rather, that makes me talk about warehousing and distribution. The entire gamut has changed over a period of time. Now, coming to you, Robin, since you have got some specific experience in the same, how do you think the transformation and the evolution has been, especially with the immerse of digitization, the e-commerce trade? So, what has been the changes?
Well, what we have seen, as it's a little bit what you're saying as well, is that from a traditional point of view of warehousing, coming to now a almost digitalization kind of industry in warehousing, right? So that the warehousing is now up to being automated, either fully or partially. The robotics, IoT, it's a massive game changer nowadays. Everybody's talking about logistics 4.0, that this is a driving factor. Then because of the automatization part for the freight forwarders and the warehouse owners, that it needs to go into a digital automated warehouse. That is just now how it is. If you see, let's say, prior COVID, this was not so much of a driven factor. Now, during the COVID and post-COVID, I think the COVID has propelled all these things, right? So everybody have seen now that, okay, we can't wait. We need to expel now and go into these factors now. And now you see a lot of the big companies, the big 3PL companies are changing their vision, building automated warehouses, either fully or automated or partially, with robotics or with ARs or ASRs. So yeah, that's definitely a big change with way back and how it is now, and I do see that the future will be going forward like this, pretty much more. Yeah.
Absolutely. It has been quite an interesting and observation that we see that over the period of time, of course, COVID did propel the entire transformation in the industry in terms of technological advancements. And of course, that has led to more operational efficacy and cost optimization. Now, we all discussed, rather, both of you have touched upon technology, and you have specifically mentioned about IoT. So we all know that the transformation has been immense. Now, Nivesh, specifically, what are your thoughts and observation on this with in terms of IoT, robotics, and AI? What has been the transformation? If I may ask you to enlist those transformation, what has been those?
It's an interesting question, Sudeshna. So I would say the transformation is at various steps. It's not only on logistics or not only on warehousing. It's not only on ports, but at the multiple various stages, the technology is involved in some cases. Now there may be a higher influence of technology in some specific areas, like as Robin has said, in warehousing, the automation is much talked about because that's where it makes more sense to optimize the operation. But when we talk about other areas of supply chain, it's also the good part is the good thing is that the focus of IoT or focus of technology is in various domains. Now, when you say the trucking, now trucking is also, I would not say automated, but yes, the way the trucking is monitored, the way the trucks are tracked, the GPS tracking, and all those things have come to a very advanced stage now. And not only that, when the good have to go to outside, like the shipping, the blockchain, those kind of things have is become a new normal now. So that is something which is much interesting, and also interesting to note that one thing will have an impact on other. Now, when we talk about technology in one domain, you cannot remain isolated. You cannot remain in silo. You have to respond. You have to respond to the business needs of the environment, to business needs of the world. So that is the interesting thing to understand. And one thing will always have a ripple effect in this industry. As you all know, logistics is much more cycling. So yes, in every aspect, in some format, technology is there.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you because this is something which has made supply chain more visible. Yes, we always talked, orthodox supply chain also talked about real time visibility, but yes, it was manual, more on a manual basis. But now it is like, yeah, the visibility is 100%. There is a lot of efficacy, both at the operational point of view and from the cost point of view. Now, I would like to specifically ask you, Nivesh, since you have an expertise in working on that segment about urban transportation, urban logistics. Do you think that it can be optimally utilized in the cargo segment? What exactly is your viewpoint on that?
Let's say a topic I would say close to me personally. Now, when we say urban logistics, one thing is very important to understand is that urban transport is typically looked at passenger mover transportation system. And when you have to introduce cargo in that, you have to understand that cargo cannot come at the cost of passenger movement because the system is designed for passenger. The stations would be designed for passengers. Now, how do you integrate cargo in that? It's not that it's not possible. There are a lot many successful cases all over the world. Volkswagen did try something in Germany, Germersheim. RER Paris, there is another system which is running very successfully. So there are successful cases, but not many. Now, what is interesting to understand and important to understand is how do you introduce cargo? When you introduce cargo on a public transport system, is the cargo going to be loaded and unloaded on a platform station like a metro? Do we see a combination of passenger movement and a cargo or loading and unloading at those stations? How do we integrate that? Interestingly, we looked at, in fact, I got an opportunity to work on one of the interesting assignment we were currently doing with the World Bank, where we looked at rapid rail transportation system in India, and we tried to introduce the cargo on the urban transportation system. So what could work in this specific case, because this was a regional transportation movement, off-peak hour of passenger movement, we try to leverage that for cargo. So we run a cargo specific train which will not stop at the intermediate station, which will only start from the source and reach to the end. So because for a passenger movement, the optics is also important. You cannot expect the passenger stations to be loading cargo or unloading cargo. So that is something which cannot happen. So urban transportation is very important, a very new field, I would say. But yes, a situation would have to be looked at in context. You cannot fit one size, will not fit all. So you have to understand the context and then have to react accordingly.
Thank you so much, Nivesh. I think that's a great insight because there are a lot of things that have happened in this segment. Maybe it is not much to the awareness of people. Thanks for sharing this. And with the passage of time, I think customer expectations, along with the technological advancements, are almost like two sides of the same coin. And it has been in rise quite rapidly. Now, coming to Robin, from the perspective of warehousing and the industry which we are in, hardcore logistics, how do you see rather the customer behavior that has gone into a transformation? What is your viewpoint on that? How it has changed over a period of time?
Um, what I've seen is that the customers are now more into a demanding kind of stage, right? Everybody wants to have same day deliveries or even within the hour. So the e-commerce side has propelled majorly, as well as that happened during the COVID as well. So companies as the likes of that are massively in e-commerce, they made a good kind of business during that time, same as now. So what I've seen is the change of customer behavior is that everybody wants to have their products now. Amazon is delivering now within an hour. Even I think that if you do Deliveroo, you order your groceries, you can also do that within an hour's time,
Right.
if you want. So the people has more demand in right now, and not so much more as in whenever it comes or whenever it's available. So that I have seen as a change. That can be a good thing, can also be a bad thing, because for companies it's can be good, but it can also be bad. But has both flip coins, right? So I've seen that as a major change. On the other side, what we see as well is that they are also more pickier, right? So they are cost sensible more, to say it like that. Think about the environment. Want to go green, right? A lot of companies are going to the going green side. So that is also what we see now a lot. And to be more sensible, right? So you don't want to order 3 times or 4 times from the same person or the same supplier, if we talk about e-commerce, rather than clubbing it all and bringing it in one sense. So the client and the customer has evolved in that sense, being a bit more smarter in between brackets, and seeing that as a change.
Absolutely. So the post-COVID effect has been quite drastic and impact on the customer behavior,
Yeah.
consumer behavior. But what has been, according to you, do you think that there has been a change in the structure, the way of the business, probably the way the business was being done before COVID and the way it is done now? And do you see the changes?
Well, my common sense will say yes. There's definitely a change in business, right? If you used to work in a certain way without any fear or with any don't want to say fear, but the hesitations or whatsoever called in doing orders or doing certain kind of movements, because you know nothing will happen. But the COVID came, so a lot happened, and people realized that okay, I need to stock up, for example, or I need to move my product out because it's expiring or whatever it is. So now coming back to the sensibility of being more sensible with ordering stuff, people has changed in there, you know. I've seen that it has changed, and it also makes more sense for me for business to be more aware in what they do, right? To have that side of the green side for a logistics company.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the business have become more, of course, agile is there, agile, resilient,
Yeah.
as well as
Yeah.
more automated, if we talk about that, so that the contingency plans are very well aligned and they know how to respond. Very well said, very well said. Nivesh, according to you, would you like, do you see the structural changes in while you have those advisory structures designed for companies? So do you see any changes in, after COVID?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I would also tend to agree to the word the structural changes. Yes, it has changed a lot. Not only the way the companies were looking at their own businesses, but also the externalities. Now, one thing, COVID, in as Robin also said, in a way, have made us realize that there has to be a plan B. There has to be a contingency plan. Now, in supply chain, everything is connected. Your supply chain or the other person is dependent on your supply chain, and your supply chain is dependent on someone else's supply chain, or maybe someone else's delivery. So, if something get disrupted, the entire chain get disrupted, and the production get disrupted, the supply get disrupted,
Yeah,
and
ripple
the end
effect.
people get the delivery probably not on time, and it boils down to lot many ripple effect. So this, not only COVID of course is say something which is unprecedented. We never, no one could imagine about how big that impact could have been. No one planned for that. In fact, no one can plan for a situation like COVID. If some other things comes up like COVID, we
Correct.
cannot be ready for that. But at least one important factor which companies have started realizing is to be resilient, to
True.
resilient to some level of shocks. I'll give you one example. Like in early this year, there was a situation like Swiss. There was a blockage. A vessel got stuck in Swiss Canal. Now it appears that okay, for 4 or 5 days a vessel got stuck. How big that impact could be? But the impact was huge, because Canal is the passage between this side to the European world. Now if that route get disrupted, that route get blocked, the entire chain get disrupted. Now that had a huge impact. Now a lot of vessels which were very cost sensitive started taking, they could not afford to wait. They started taking a route of Cape of Good Hope. But if you do that, there is a huge cost involved, there is time involved, but there is no other option. So you have to do that. Now that had lot much of impact on the supply chain, not only the short term but also in the longer term. And that also made us realize, should there be a new option? Should there be a new route? Should there be a new alternative? Should we start looking at air cargo as an alternative mode? If we say, if we say time sensitive cargo, why don't we send through air rather
True.
than depending on a single possibility, which there is a possible of disruption, which happened in the previous case. So the coming back to the original point is that the the resilience is what is important, and that is what these all these chain or events have made us realize, that if we don't have a plan B, if we can't be resilient, we can't probably plan well.
True, true. Very insightful indeed, Nivesh. Now, we all understand the volatility in the market and especially in global supply chain. Now, how do you think the business operations can actually safeguard against such external fluctuations? If I may quickly ask you, Robin.
Something like COVID.
Yeah,
Well, similar to.
similar to,
Yeah,
yeah,
you can't.
because we can't predict it.
No, you
So,
can't
how
predict.
do you think? Yeah,
So you can't predict. You can't predict. You can hope for the best, but that's what I think. But look, there are SaaS based softwares that can sort of predict
correct.
certain cases, but still it's just a prediction. So I think it is hard to predict something that has happened like COVID. Um, I think you need to just be more sensible with your orders. When we talk about orders, um, use a alternatives, right? So as you rightly said, when the Suez Canal got blocked, alternatives came up more and more, right? So you see now that the world is looking into the silk routes, either being by train and by sea or by truck. So all that has propelled these things, but predicting something like what happened, I think it's very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't predict, but we can be more resilient,
Yeah,
probably. That's it. And yeah, the contingency
Yeah,
plan needs to
right.
be in place so that
Absolutely.
that's the only way we can protect our
no,
business from
absolutely,
external fluctuations. And
absolutely.
of course, being more automated because the show must go on, the
Yeah,
business must
yeah,
go
yeah,
on,
yeah.
as they say in common parlance. Now, coming to you, Nivesh, before we move to any other topic, like ESG is something which is being talked about, sustainable logistic. In fact, that's where I want to come to you. How do you think the companies can practice more responsible and more, I should say, eco-friendly supply chain? What are the measures that you think that company, that
Right.
anybody, a firm can adapt?
No, I thought this will come. Yeah.
And
So,
especially with Dubai hosting the
yeah, yeah.
COP28. So,
Yes,
yeah, over to
absolutely.
you.
There can be no better time than talking about sustainability in Dubai, where we are right now. Now, sustainability is something which companies have realized this is not by default. This is there is no option. So this is not an option anymore, which now not only bigger but also smaller companies have realized that in their business plan, in their activities, sustainability is coming in lot many ways. And when I say sustainability, is the entire gamut of ESG, environment, sustainability, and governance. So companies have looking at each and everything in very much specific way. Now I can tell you, like, the inquiries which we are getting in sustainability or ESG, we are getting more inquiries from the smaller companies and rather than bigger ones. So bigger one is something which they anyways do because of the optics, also because of, yes, of course they want to bring a difference to the world. But the smaller companies are also coming up with lot many ESG initiatives. They are at least attempting to do that, and that is very interesting and encouraging thing to notice. And when I say ESG, it's not only the operations they are looking at. They are looking at the holistically what can be the optimum use of, or the optimum way to manage their business, and how much it can impact to the externality. So focus is there, and focus is increasing as we speak day by day, and that's very encouraging.
Absolutely. And I believe that this is no more a choice,
This
but I
no more
think we are all
choice.
morally responsible for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. That brings us to the end of this episode. My sincere gratitude and thanks to both of you for joining us in today's session on warehouse automation and urban logistics. It has been quite insightful, and I'm sure our listeners too have enjoyed having some insights from you. And I think, in case they want to get in touch with you, they can do by getting in touch through your LinkedIn portfolios. And I hope the links would be shared in the episode
Sure.
description. Stay tuned for more such thought provoking conversations. Until next time, this is Sudeshna Dikshit signing off. Thank you.
Thank you.